It is a darkness that seems endless.
I get scared quite often. I cry a lot.
Cancer doesn't give you a break. It's always on your mind. It changes everything in your life.
I thought I lost her a couple of times.
The toughest thing probably has been being apart from my husband.
It's been the hardest couple months of my life and our life together, without a doubt.
It is a darkness that never seems to lift.
He's never, ever said, why me? Why me? Why do I have this? Never, ever said that.
The fact that we don't always win, the fact that many of the patients that I personally see with cancer eventually die from their disease. And I think that's the hardest part of my job. I think for any oncologist who deals with patients on a day-to-day basis.
But within that darkness, a light remains strong, the human spirit.
You want to almost always try to offer hope.
Hope is through education, understanding, being compassionate.
If you live each day, you do everything you want to be doing, and you find little successes each day, then that's what it's all about.
And with each success, the world seems brighter and each day better.
Patients aren't cases, they're people.
The people who have cancer often have to endure a lot, and therefore there's a huge gain in making it better.
Never take life for granted. It's a wonderful gift, but you just never know what's around the corner.
Hello, I'm Monica Robbins. Today we walk through the shadows of a disease that affects the lives of many people, cancer. It's a word that can change a lifetime. In this episode of Medical Miracles, we meet 4 people who heard the word cancer and began a fight for their lives.
Wally Vogel has kidney cancer. It's a disease that can be successfully cured if the kidney is removed with all the cancer intact. In Wally's case, his kidney ruptured.
If the disease escapes the kidney, which it did in my case, and you become stage 4, the survival rate pretty much flips around. You're down to about a 5 to 10% long-term 5-year survival rate.
Wally is a Canadian living in the suburbs of Toronto. He was given the bad news of his likely outcome at his local hospital.
They say that those are some of the scariest words in the English language, is to hear a doctor say you have cancer.
The sound of the word still echoes in Wally's memory. It haunted him as he began an unsuccessful campaign against his cancer.
By this point, we had failed interleukin now, so we failed 2 surgeries, failed interleukin. Those numbers were looking really bad. Wally does research all the time. We knew that the odds were getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
With the odds against Wally, he looked desperately for options in the United States. What he found was a clinical trial conducted by Dr. Ron Bukowski at the Cleveland Clinic for an experimental drug called SU-011248.
Kidney cancer has been a very difficult disease to treat before. There's been no really effective treatment. Now, this may not be a cure for the disease, but it certainly seems to slow it down.
Wally took the trek from Canada to Cleveland looking for a miracle. The biggest shock, the treatment.
Wally started on the drug, and it seemed like it was nothing. He just popped a pill, and we kept going, are you sure this is going to work? This is just crazy.
Just one little pill, it's like a vitamin. It's amazing.
The greatest thing about this drug is they can take it home. They give it to themselves. It's self-administered. They're their own monitor as far as how to manage the drug, dose it correctly, and manage the side effects, keeping me informed and using me as a resource.
Wally Vogel doesn't find peace in CAT scan or MRI machines. They usually end up giving him bad news. Prior to taking the SU-011248 drug, he underwent 11 scans, all with negative results. His 12th scan brought him hope.
I had never had a CAT scan done and said, we've got good news for you. So I was just sort of set up for that. I was in that mindset of, okay, we're going to get more bad news here. What are we going to do next?
Laura came up to us and said, you know, I can't tell you officially. It's the doctor who's going to tell you officially. She says, but I've seen the reports, and you've got like 25% shrinkage.
We were just so happy. We literally couldn't say anything.
We just kind of looked at each other and just started to cry.
everything looks like it's continuing to improve. So, you know, he's done exceptionally well with his treatment. When you look the most recent examination, if you go from here to this one, you really see it's so much smaller, okay? Much smaller.
The drug is breaking new ground. Dr. Bukowski has been searching for a breakthrough like this his entire career.
He just kept slogging through, doing the work, supporting patients through. And now, after a more than 30-year career, the hypotheses that he started to test 25, 30 years ago, but didn't have the molecular biology tools to really understand exactly how to do it, it's starting to have pay to it.
The success of the drug may help Richard Gobble, a new patient participating in the clinical trial.
Number one, I don't have a choice because there's nothing else out there for kidney cancer. And the trial drug programs, when you're in a position like I am, you welcome it.
I'm looking forward to anything that I think is going to help me. I'm ready to take it right now. I have no problem. I've been looking for this day, waiting for this day for 30 days, for a month. We've been waiting to have this happen.
After 3 cycles of 6 weeks each, Richard gets encouraging news.
I think they're smaller by about 20% right now.
Wow, that's good.
It was hard to believe that that little pill, that dosage could do that. And even now the pill that he's on, it just amazes me.
Richard has never experienced pain with his cancer, and the treatment doesn't stop his busy lifestyle. But he has a new view on life.
There we go. When you get in a position like I'm in and you get find out that you got a disease that may take your life, you do change and you look at everything a little bit different, like your kids and your future and your family, and everything means a lot more to you.
With his view changed and his hope renewed, Richard lives each day to the fullest.
That is the coolest thing, to be able to say, we now know that this drug's working for you. We can validate the hope.
Wally and Richard, 2 men whose lives will never be the same. 2 men fighting bravely on the front lines of cancer.
Once this drug gets FDA approved, it will be great because any patient anywhere will be able to benefit from it.
But right now, the families of Wally and Richard benefit from sharing each day with each other, the precious gift of time.
I thank God every day that my dad is here with me and loving me. I am so blessed and honored to have such an amazing father to be my inspiration, source of encouragement, and guidance through my journey of life.
One of our granddaughters the other day said, "Does my grandpa still have kidney cancer? He doesn't look sick." And that made me feel so good, and I went right home and I told him that, and he got a little teary-eyed.
Just enjoy what you have, enjoy who you have, and just try to make the world better, even if it's just your little world, the little world around you. And I know Wally works hard to do that.
Next, Gamma Knife. Sounds scary, but a painless surgery helps a grandmother shrink her brain tumors and keep up with her grandchildren. And later, a young mother with a deadly disease bravely faces what might be her last chance.
Cancer. It's a lonely disease, a fight often waged in the solitude of MRI machines and CAT scans. Each step closer to healing requires inner strength and determination. And along that path, if you find the right doctor and the right treatment, the claustrophobic walls of fear come down.
Joyce Barger was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2001. A series of scans discovered her cancer had metastasized to her liver, ribs, and spine. It's been a tough fight.
It's very hard to watch somebody you love go through all of this, and personally, I don't know if I could do it or not.
Just before Thanksgiving 2002, Joyce had a seizure. It signaled another stage of her cancer.
We found out that she had the tumors in her brain, and everybody took it hard.
She's been under treatment for several years now to battle her cancer, but now this focus has changed to actually treating her brain.
Her tumors have responded to whole brain radiation, which is something that we commonly see. However, seedlings can seed from the rest of the body in the brain again, and that's what we're seeing now with the recurrence of these lesions.
The new treatment for Joyce, the Gamma Knife.
Gamma knife is a device that allows us to deliver 201 beams of radiation that are pointed to one area, which allows us to deliver this very high dose of radiation, which causes localized destruction of tissue in that area.
It provides only a small dose of radiation to the surrounding normal brain and locally gives a high dose to the abnormal area that we're targeting.
Today is Joyce's first gamma knife treatment. The first part of the procedure requires a frame to be placed on her head.
The purpose of this head frame is to provide a reference point in terms of how the beams of radiation are to be targeted. So it serves as a roadmap for us to accurately deliver the radiation to the intended target.
Once the head frame is in place, Joyce must have scans completed to create the map of her brain.
This is very much a team approach. The neurosurgeon will place the frame, will perform the treatment planning. The radiation oncologist is involved with dose selection, how much dose to deliver to the actual target, and the actual treatment. The medical physicist assures that the treatment is being performed accurately, making sure that the calibration is correct for the machine itself.
This is the one lesion that we knew about that is showing evidence of progression.
The neurosurgeon's job is to identify the lesion and establish the target area.
We want to make sure that we will treat the tumor to an effective dose, make sure we cover 100% of the tumor, but keep the dosing very tight and not cover very much normal brain.
Joyce has 2 lesions, one the size of a BB, the other the size of a pea. The team has concluded that it will take 2 separate treatments. The 3 agree on the amount of radiation, the target area, and then the treatment begins.
This will take about 15 minutes total for the actual treatment. Okay. You won't hear anything, you won't feel anything. You'll hear the radio once we put it on for you.
Okay.
All right.
Joyce is carefully moved into the machine. She calmly lays still and listens to the radio as the procedure takes place.
It's been a long struggle. It's been a lot of treatments. When you hear the term gamma knife, you know, like, what are they going to do, cut something apart or what? But it's nothing like that. Nothing at all.
After the first lesion is treated, the team moves on to the second. It is in a different location in the brain, and they need to modify the equipment. Once again, Joyce is moved into position. The second treatment will last a half hour.
Okay, table's coming out.
How do you feel?
I'm going.
Great.
Good.
Patients are able to return to their normal activities soon after the procedure. Joyce was able to return to her normal activities within a day after the procedure. So the real advantage of gamma knife radiosurgery compared to traditional surgery is that patients can go on with their lives. For patients with cancer, that's very important.
Weeks later, Joyce goes back to meet with the gamma knife team to get the results of her treatment.
Everything looks terrific. I'm really, really delighted. This is our gamma plan as we treated it that day, and you can clearly see that the lesion is a lot smaller than what we initially treated. So you can see that that one has obviously shrunk very nicely. You can see your smile building and growing. And then the other area is also completely resolved. Yes, things look great.
Okay.
And I'm happy to share that news with you.
I kind of like the news. That's great.
It's always a great feeling when you see a patient whose scans have improved, the patient is also clinically improved as well. So personally, I get a lot of satisfaction when I see a patient's actually improving. It's obviously great for the patient, their families, their friends, and also from a physician, it's also very rewarding to see patients improve from a treatment that you've offered. So very pleased with the results.
Yep. So am I. Since I got the news, everything seems better. And it's like, you know, I think about coming out here and it's like, it's a blessing because I can look at this again and enjoy it. 10 years ago, if you got a diagnosis of breast cancer metastasized, you might as well just write your will out and sign everything over. Now, I'm going on my 5th year here pretty good.
Next, a stem cell transplant for a young mother may be her last chance. Her husband and daughter hope for a medical miracle.
Cancer doesn't discriminate. It affects people at any age, and patients, young or old, struggle to rid their bodies of disease with a deep desire to return to normal life.
I had swelling underneath my armpit and then a swelling in the ridge, like a ridge in the middle of my chest.
Ann Cash is 30 years old. Today is the beginning of which she hopes will be a miracle.
She was initially diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease or Hodgkin lymphoma. In her spleen, she had a different disease, diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, which is a type of non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Ann's spleen was removed, revealing that the lymphoma originally diagnosed had transformed.
The type of Hodgkin lymphoma that she had only occurs about 5% of the time.
In the United States, there are 7,000 to 8,000 patients with Hodgkin's disease diagnosed each year.
About 3 to 5% of those patients, their Hodgkin lymphoma will transform to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. So, yes, her situation is unique.
Dr. Brad Pullman believes he can cure Ann with an autologous stem cell transplant. Her own body will try to save her.
Right now they're collecting stem cells.
The cells will be harvested and processed.
And they will give me 8 days of high-dose chemotherapy to pretty much knock out my bone marrow.
And then the processed stem cells will be infused back into Ann with the hopes of forming healthy new bone marrow. The stem cell collecting goes well. Now Ann will wait for the next step. While Ann waits to begin the chemotherapy portion of the treatment, she enjoys precious moments with her daughter, Marissa. Ann traveled from Melbourne, Florida to Cleveland and is staying at her parents' home. Her husband, Scott, remains at their Florida home and commutes to see his daughter and wife.
Things happen for a reason, and I think that this happened for a reason, and I may not find that out for a while, but I'm just glad that I was able to go through this rather than my daughter.
Is Giraffe tickling you?
And if Marissa was in Florida and Anna was going through this by herself, she might have weak moments.
Patients that are motivated, have caregivers, have a support system, those patients do much better than patients who don't, independent of the status of their disease.
It has been 8 months since the original diagnosis, but now it's crunch time, the final steps in her treatment. Ann's husband, Scott, joins her for a critical part of her care. Ann has endured 8 days of chemotherapy intended to destroy the lymphoma cells.
There is something that is saying that the end is near, and we've waited for this and waited for this, and now we can actually look at maybe making plans for something.
We took a lot of things for granted. People take things for granted, there's no doubt about that. That won't happen anymore. Eating dinner together is priceless, so we can't wait to start doing those things again.
With her immune system weakened by chemotherapy, Ann and Scott try to remain strong as a family. Little Marissa only knows that doctors are curing her mother's boo-boos. Today is the day that Ann and Scott have anxiously anticipated.
Today, my stem cells will be infused.
In Florida, Ann is a preschool teacher. As the stem cells are infused into her body, she is surrounded by the well wishes of her students. Ann is at peace.
Most people who go through a autologous stem cell transplant who are cured of their lymphoma will go on to live normal, happy, productive lives. And so, yeah, that's my hope for her.
5 weeks after the transplant, Ann has scans to determine if the procedure was a success. Inside the machine, the minutes seem like hours as Ann contemplates the possibilities. She dreams of hearing good news.
We repeated all of her tests, and she has absolutely no evidence of residual disease, so she's in a complete remission.
Ann and Scott are thrilled and acknowledge that Dr. Brad Pullman's experience and expertise saved Ann's life.
And a really good doc is going to be able to recognize when things just aren't right and acknowledge that and do what's necessary to figure out why.
It's okay if you don't get a job today. That means you get a special job tomorrow.
Ann went back to teaching.
You know, we've been married 4 years, and in those 4 years, you think you really know a person. I didn't know how great she was until I watched her do this.
Scott and Ann take nothing for granted.
It opened my eyes to a whole different world of how people deal with things, and I look at people that have differences or illnesses in a whole different light.
Life's too precious, and you don't know how long you have your loved ones and how long you have your own life.
We just enjoy life so much more now. We take each day as it comes, and we don't sweat the small stuff, and just being together as a family has just made us so happy.
Restoring lives, maintaining lifestyles, and keeping spirits strong. The patient, along with physicians, oncologists, nurses, families, and many others, form a team that can face cancer and win.
I don't know what I'd do without you.
You're going to have to worry. This treatment worked.
I think that the successes that I see every day far outnumber the disappointments.
I think if you treat people as people who happen to be stuck with an illness, you do a whole lot better, and that's my advice to families. Focus on the other stuff. That doesn't mean ignore the fact that the patient is dealing with an issue. It just means remember that there's more to them than their cancer.
It's encouraging. I know they care. It's good. Good feeling.
It feels great to be home. I have so many things I wanted to do when I got home, and I was able to do them. I was able to see my friends and be with family and really take the time to just enjoy the simple things.
And that's the best part of this, is hearing that they're out doing the things they want to be doing and not spending their time and their energy focusing on their disease and trying to survive it.
Well, he's left a legacy with his children. He's made us all better people.
Whenever I feel sad, he cheers me up, and he always has time to play with me or talk to me about anything.
He's definitely become a lot stronger. I hadn't really seen him going through trouble before as much as this, and I hadn't seen it so firsthand, the troubles he's gone through and how strong he stays through it. So I have a lot more respect for him, and I just see him as an amazing guy.
He's just showed the world what a good person looks like. I mean, he lived a good life even before he had cancer.
If you'd like more information, call toll-free 1-800-890-2467 or log on to wkyc.com/miracles.